I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and this is News and Week in Review. We're going to be going through a bunch of assorted news pieces, some heavier than others. We're going to go through the topic of the week, which may be my shortest topic of the week ever. Not that it's not important, I specifically want it short because I think that might add to the importance. Also, I know my name is Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and when I say a video is going to be 10 minutes long, it's usually like 37 minutes long. So there is that possibility. We'll find out soon enough. Past that, we're going to go into the week in review, the actual things, what I played, all those usual things, and let's start this off with the news. Starting off with the Steamforged Vault. Steamforged Games is opening up their vault on April 4th. They're gonna, this like logo's blurry and not loading here, but they're going to be opening up their vault, which is basically CMON's time machine. It's the same kind of idea. What they are doing is they're going to say, hey, you know, Resident Evil 2, or Dark Souls, or Horizon Zero Dawn, or any of these games where there's been hard to find expansions and content, they're going to be releasing it and opening up their vault, and you can now go ahead and buy some of those things. What's going to be in there? No idea. Will it annoy some people that you can buy these things that may have been exclusive or hard to find? Probably. Will other people be happy that they can get stuff that you've had in your collection for 4.5 years? Also probably. Do I have a strong opinion in it? No. Honestly, I don't even know if they're doing things that they said are exclusive. I don't even know. I just know that this conversation around things that were exclusive and then somehow show up either at Miniature Market or in the Time Machine or in a vault or whatever, I know it's always a bit of a sore topic, and I understand both sides. I fall into the camp that when you tell me something's exclusive, I do get a little irritated if it like shows up at retail the next day, but if it shows up at retail 5 years later, I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, there's a window where let other people play nice things. But again, I understand both sides of the coin here. I don't think either side is necessarily wrong, nor do I know if they're actually selling exclusive stuff. So this is my little side tangent that I got into unintentionally that may not even be relevant here. Point is, Steamforged Vault, if you want to go ahead and get some of these things, check it out. If you want to make sure that you can sell it on the second-hand market for 4 times the price once they sell out, take a gamble. See how it goes for you. Let me know. Past that, we move into Santorini. Santorini is launching on Kickstarter with the Co-op and Deluxe Pantheon expansion. Is this a $1 million campaign? Is this a $1 million campaign? I am curious whether this is a $1 million campaign. Santorini's popular. Santorini is the game that put Roxley on the map. I think. I'm pretty sure, right? Roxley, I mean like Dice Throne put Roxley on the map. But before Dice Throne came along, we had Santorini, which I think was like a $700,000 campaign, if I recall correctly. That was a Kickstarter I backed before I backed Kickstarters. And I feel like, how did you back Kickstarter before you back Kickstarters? Because there's 2 windows every person has. There's the window in which they see something on Kickstarter and they back it. And then there's the window where they are actively on Kickstarter looking for things to back. In my pre-Kickstarter days, I backed like maybe 4 or 5 total campaigns, and Santorini was one of them. Spending $70 on this cool-looking abstract game was a question mark for sure, but it's also a game I still have in my collection, so I'm going to call that a win. But anyways, Santorini, Co-op and Deluxe Pantheon Edition coming out. We'll find out more information soon on this, but yeah, it's gonna be, and it has a deluxeified version. So they said it's a glow up. Like oh my gosh, on like Facebook, someone said like I think they promoted it like, oh, Santorini gets a glow up, and I'm like, oh, terminology these days. Nothing wrong with glow up, but just funny to see it applied to a board game. But it's getting a glow up, which like the thing I saw that was very cool. I don't know how you can see it. Well, I guess if I zoom in, you can probably see it over here. You see those like ridges over here? That's a cool little thing. I like that sense of ridges and like specific placement. We'll see. New buildings, new things, gets a glow up in some way, shape, or form, plus gets a co-op and or solo expansion, and that has me intrigued. It says co-op, it doesn't say solo, but usually you could solo things that you co-op, usually. There are exceptions, you can't play the crew solo, although I'm sure someone has a solo mode. Someone has a solo mode for the crew, don't they? On Board Game Geek, anything is possible. Moving on, we have over here Clank Legacy Acquisitions Incorporated, Darkest Magic. This is going to be the new Clank Legacy game, which is going to do incredibly well. How many people are following the campaign? 4,000 people are following the campaign. That's not enough. There's going to be like 10,000 before it launches. This is Clank Legacy 2, Acquisitions Incorporated. This is a follow-up Legacy game in the Clank universe, which is awesome if you love Clank Legacy. I didn't love Clank Legacy. It's one of the few Legacy games I didn't even finish, although it is a well-loved game. I am the minority here. Do not take this as an opinion to go by. Ignore my opinion here. But I do plan on playing it again. I've been given a hard enough time by enough people that this is a game I want to give it its proper shot at some point, in some way, and so that will happen. But it's going to have to be Clank Legacy 1 first. I'm not jumping back into 2. I want to finish 1. I want to start 1 again. I want to finish it, and then we'll go to 2. That's going to happen. But from there, we move on to, this is a little blog thing. This is a crowdfunding coach. This is a new blog being started by Brendan McCaskill. Brendan McCaskill from Games fame, Out of Our Mind Games. They're the ones who put out Stars of Icarios. They put out Mythwind. They put out, I should know the last one, Stone Saga. There we go. Stone Saga, that's the last one. And he basically is doing a blog talking about, you know, crowdfunding stuff, which I think is worth reading. If you are someone who's into crowdfunding, either as a casual spectator of like behind the scenes or an actual creator, I would follow this blog. Brendan McCaskill is incredibly insightful in what he does in the board gaming space. The stuff he does as far as how he approaches. There's two kinds of people. There's three kinds of people. There's three kinds of people, and only three. There are no others. There's no exceptions. There's just three kinds of people. It's only those three, and that's it. The first kind of person is the person who sells and creates board games because he is passionate about the hobby, and he doesn't know enough about business. Enough could be he knows this much, or it could be he knows this much, but he doesn't know the amount you actually need to know. And they get involved in it, and they learn, they figure it out, they do what they need to do, maybe they get better, maybe not, whatever it is. But there's the passionate creator about the hobby. Then there's the person who's just straight up a businessman. They know how business operates, they know how to run a company, they know how to look into things, to market, to do research, all these things. They know all but the business side of things. That's person number two. Again, there's only three. There's never ever been a fourth kind of person, just these three. And then the third kind of person is the person who is passionate about the hobby and understands how businesses work too. And that is definitely where Brendan McCaskill fits. He very much falls into the category of being passionate about games, passionate about creation, passionate about, what he wants to bring to the world, but also understands that there is a conversation about how to do that in a way that is going to make something more or less likely to be successful. And that means that if you are someone who's trying to create in the board game space, follow this blog. It's going to be full of useful insights and information, and I highly recommend it. Past that, moving on, we have Project L returning to Kickstarter. Oh, I didn't realize this was not a Kickstarter link. Huh. It says accept all on the cookies. Where is the Kickstarter pre-launch page? So we're going to move over to the Kickstarter pre-launch page. Project L returns to Kickstarter. Board Cubator, who famously, famously is probably the wrong terminology. They basically, they had a few games. They had Project L, which did incredibly well. They had Space Race, which did not do that well. And then they had Kingdom Come Deliverance, which unfortunately did not fund over on GameFound, or more specifically did fund, but they wanted a lot more money than they actually put out the funding goal, and they closed the company down. And now they're back. I don't know what they've done. I don't know what in any way. I have no clue what they've done or not done. I assume they've sold off some of the IP. Maybe they sold Kingdom Come Deliverance. I don't know. But what I do know is they're coming back with Project L, which makes sense because that is their most successful game. I just taught it to a few people at Dice Tower West. It's a great game. I like Project L. I recommend Project L. And they're coming back to crowdfunding April 4th. We'll see how well things go. In general, I think I'm going to say a few things here. So first of all, obviously any company that shuts down and closes a campaign that funded to 3 times its funding goal, obviously any company in that position, it is understandable that you'll have a degree of skepticism when you look at their next game. Like, what's going to happen with this one? Like, what's going to happen with this game? Is it going to deliver? Is it not going to deliver? And that skepticism is reasonable. It is completely reasonable. You should walk into this campaign with skepticism. Also, they've actually delivered all their campaigns, and they closed a campaign down rather than saying, hey, we're going to make it work and just hope for the best. Meaning they said, we're not going to take a chances here. If we don't think it's going to work, we're not going to just take the money and hope for the best. So I think they have both shown that they can carry through on their campaigns and will cancel rather than putting themselves in a position where they can't deliver. I also think skepticism is always reasonable whenever there's rocky waters at all. Moving on, we have Ivy Games. Speaking of people who are passionate and business people, Ivy Games very much falls into the camp as well, by the way. They used to do a crowdfunding series that I loved, and I hope it comes back. Austin told me it'll come back. I'll see if it comes back. But Ivy Games, what they did over here is they used to have a Ivy Games backer kind of conversation where what they do is they look at campaigns and talk about it from the mindset of a creator. Like, why would they do that here? Why would they do that there? And I thought it was excellent and full of excellent advice. Again, there's lots of people in the space who fall into all 3 of those camps. Only 3. There's not a 4th camp. And from those 3 camps, I think Ivy Games is another one that falls into the we are both business people and passionate about what we do, so we try to approach it with mindfulness from both sides, and I think they do an excellent job. Secondly, from that, if you want to go ahead and check out a Fractured Sky gameplay over on the channel with it's Austin. Austin was there because we played with Zach too, and we stomped. Oh, no comment. Never mind. That was a spoiler to the future. Nothing happened. We didn't do anything. But anyways, we played against Austin. It was, and it's not cooperative. It's all individual. But we did take it as a kind of mission that it was Devin, myself, Meg, and then Austin, and we're like, we cannot let the Ivy Games team win. Were we successful in our journey? Who knows? We'll find out. But you can check out that video if you want. Over here, we have on Amazon. It's just on Amazon. Purchased another variation. What is happening here? This is weird. So, just for the record, what's going on here is I'm in my Amazon. Okay, let me take a step back. I'm just going to give you some information here, and we'll call it a day. But basically, I got an email saying, hey, we got a Super Mario Labyrinth edition. Is it Labyrinth or Labyrinth? I always say it wrong. Whatever it is, one of those 2 words. We got Super Mario Labyrinth edition, and coming out because of the movie. I got that email, and I was like, that's cool. So I clicked on, when I do my week in review, I popped open the link, and I got to like, hey, it's like, it's on Amazon already. That makes sense. That's cool. Cool. And so it's on Amazon. But now they're like, this is purchased December 16th, 2022. Oh, Pokemon Labyrinth. Okay, I see what's going on here. Okay. I'm older now. I was trying to figure out how it shows on my screen. You see over here? It shows on my screen that someone purchased this game, December 16th, 2022. And I was like, I don't think that's doable if this game just came out. So I was a little confused there. But the version that was purchased was Pokemon Labyrinth. See, look, style over there? Which makes sense. My kids love Pokemon. Also, I didn't buy this for the record. This is a fun little fact that you get to find out by watching my weekly review this week, which is, in general, my Amazon account is used by about 7 bajillion people. Like, I think the correct number is around 7 bajillion. Like, if you go into my addresses and credit cards, we have like, I don't know, 80 credit cards and like 152 addresses. We have a large family network that we've shared the password to our Amazon over way too many times, and it is what it is. The cat is out of the box. It's way too late to go back now, and they do get to see all the board games I purchase. So there is that benefit there. And apparently someone bought Pokemon Labyrinth, and I vaguely recall seeing it in my house. I guess my wife's mother probably bought it for a gift, maybe. I don't know. Either way, let's go ahead and move to the last link, which all of this stuff goes, all the good-spirited fun and conversation kind of goes out the window with this last link, because the last link is Everything is a Story, Inside Wyrmwood Gaming's Narcissistic Funhouse. This is an article by Gizmodo, and these are always hard to cover. It is always hard to cover something this sensitive and this problematic with any degree of, hey, you know what? Here, let's cover this way. I'm not a journalist, but it's not a get out of jail free card. I'm not a journalist. I don't look into like every single story 100 times. I don't cross-research and check this and check that. And there's a degree of responsibility and accountability in even talking about this subject that I take seriously, but I'm mindful that I'm going to just let people down no matter what I do. The short version is Wyrmwood, a few weeks ago, had some sexual assault allegations brought up around things that had happened at the company, and then the person who tried reporting it was fired. These are allegations. I'm not saying what happened or didn't happen, but basically someone said, hey, I tried reporting something that happened in the company, and they fired me for causing issues. Wyrmwood defended that by putting up a video on their channel, their Worm Life channel, and talking about like, oh, well, this, that, and presenting in part of the whole Worm Life story. If you're not familiar with the Worm Life story, the basic idea of it is that they, on Worm Life, they kind of present a kind of reality TV show version of what's going on at Wyrmwood. And so they cover that there, talking about, oh, well, this happened, that happened. They kind of addressed it there. They got a lot of flack for that video, and then they took it down. Now, what I will say is, a lot of things that we're going to talk about right now, I don't know what happened. I wasn't there. I can only report on what's going on generally. What I will say is, my own personal opinion, putting up that on Worm Life was utter garbage. Like, I'm not going to hold back on this one. I think it's a scumbag, ridiculous, tone-deaf move to try to cover sexual assault allegations as part of your reality TV YouTube channel. I am very mindful in general of I try to be mindful in general of talking negatively about other creators in the board game space, or even the board game adjacent space. I just think it's not cool to talk about your peers. I don't think it's fine to smack up. I don't think it's fine to hit up or to punch down. I don't think either one's fine. I think be respectful of people who are in the space you're in. I think be respectful of anyone and everyone. But I do think, and I'm not criticizing Wyrmwood in general yet, I'm just saying the specific aspect of putting something on your reality TV show channel of this weight and presenting it as a whole, I think it was a scumbag move. I think it was, scumbag is the wrong term. I think it is a incredibly inappropriate thing to do with something so serious, and I'm happy they got pushed back, and I'm happy they took that video down. That's a separate tangent to anything. Whether things are true or not true or anything, I just think it's a bad way to deal with it. From there, looks like Gizmodo did a full... So again, what we know is there's a whole issue, some allegations that they covered something up, and then some defense of what happened and that we wasn't really covered up or not. Again, presented in a whole reality TV show style, and that's kind of where my knowledge of what was going on kind of ended. And to be clear, the original allegations were not that Wyrmwood staff did anything SA-related, rather that they covered up by firing the person who was reporting about it. So just to be very clear with distinctions. Gizmodo did an article, which is linked here, and a bunch of other channels, a bunch of other news networks are talking about it, referencing this article. But Gizmodo did an article where they interviewed something like 50 people who had worked with Wyrmwood or in some way engaged with Wyrmwood, and they uncovered, assuming things in the story are true, and this is where I'm mindful. Like I don't want to simply sit there and say these are facts. They are what they are. I'm very mindful of how you can quickly have a single news story that everyone presents as facts and just spirals out of control, and it's just that is now the narrative. This is the new reality because everyone wants to report on it. I would say that my own personal opinion from reading the story is that there are problematic things going on at Wyrmwood with various people at Wyrmwood. That's my own personal opinion from reading this, based on trying to be critical and trying to see where something seems like it has more standing or not. Just my own personal opinion as a critical reader. I don't know past that what's true, and I encourage you to read this yourself to draw your own conclusions. But as you're reading it, I would present that try to be mindful of this is a side of the story, and can you see it from the other side? On my end, I believe things that are going on in the story, but I encourage criticism. I encourage things to, not criticism, I encourage taking things with a degree of critical analysis when it's something this serious. Neither assume that one side is wrong or right, just try to be critical as you process it. But the basic idea is they are painting a picture of a lack of responsibility at Wyrmwood, a lack of responsibility in the way they handle things, in the way they manage things, in the spin they put on the reality TV, and the spin of the way they handled employee relations and how they pay people, how they deal with their employees, a variety of sexual assault related issues and or just general misconduct. Again, I encourage you to read the article as opposed to just taking anything. Like, don't watch this video and just say, hey, oh yeah, there's just a ton of issues going on at Wyrmwood without context. Try to read it, understand it before you just wander around. But there's a bunch of things going on, and I would say that there are some things, and there are some things in the article, again, going back to the criticism part. Like, there's, like, for example, there's one line in the article where this is where they're trying to encourage the idea that they are irresponsible in their show. So, for example, they paint the picture. This is, like, one example of where in the article I thought, like, okay, you're searching for things at this point. This isn't real. I wish they hadn't put it in the article. I think it's a lame critique. Where they have, Doug is the type of person that throws stuff at the wall, says co-founder Eric Dupuis. I don't know how to pronounce the name. He fundamentally doesn't believe in competency. In an episode of Worm Life, after Costello boasts that his skill set is in entrepreneurship, not managing a large company with proper financials, Wyrmwood social media manager turned reality show producer Bobby Downey chimes in and says, and we've been faking it pretty good. Nobody contradicts him. Like, I think that's a garbage critique. Like, okay, great, so a bunch of people are bantering on camera and someone's like, hey, we don't even know what we're doing here. And other people are like, yeah, nobody knows that. That's just like critique, and that's just banter back and forth. Meaning, could it be that they don't know what's going on? Absolutely. But the idea of a bunch of people, like, you want to find any number of instances of me being on camera with anyone, with Crackle, with Devin, with Meg, of us bantering about how inefficient we are or whatever it is. There's like a running joke of video. We're making a bunch of mistakes as we play through Marvel United. I'm like, we're consummate professionals. Banter is banter, and I think that extrapolating banter to mean something is a stretch, and I think that's a waste of time. The problem is, if you read the rest of the article, there's a lot of other instances of other things that I think are problematic. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, I don't want to summarize a very, very long article in a few words. What I do want to say is there is a whole lot of things going on in this article, some more serious than others, some with more to back it up than others, and some very problematic stuff, again, both essay related, both general misconduct, both handling employees, that is likely going to cause a problem for Wyrmwood, I imagine. And this is just letting you know that this exists. And from there, I encourage you to read it. I'll have a link down below. And with that, we're going to go ahead and close up the news stuff over here. And let's go into the next segment of this, which is the topic of the week. The topic of the week is going to be a fairly short one, I said. We'll see if that's true. Give me a second. So the topic of the week is directly inspired by me watching, well, it's actually inspired two things. So the topic of the week is criticism versus personal attacks. And we're going to keep it very short and very to the point. Okay? And most of you watching know the difference. Most of you watching in general, that's always the balance when you're whenever you're responding or engaging with what I'm going to call behavior that I disagree with, most of you are not part of that in any way. I would say the vast, vast majority of you. But I was watching Tom Vassell, or I was watching the Dice Tower's top 5 things we disagree with. And at one point, Tom mentioned, Lacerda fans. He mentioned Lacerda fans was like that they're over the top, they attack people, whatever it is. And he referenced a review of Weather Machine that was on Board Game Geek. And it's a review of Weather Machine, what's on YouTube, and then it's linked to on Board Game Geek. And it's Chris and Wendy Yee from the Dice Tower reviewing the Weather Machine. And then the video was on Board Game Geek. They didn't love the Weather Machine. They gave it, I think, a 4 and a 6, perhaps, or a 4 and a 5 out of 10. And the thread on Board Game Geek got fairly toxic fairly quickly. Now, just to give a few pieces of context before we get into things. Number one, many people in the thread were respectful. Not everyone is a problem. Number two, there were a bunch of people that were dismissive and problematic in the thread in terms of the general response to the video. But both those things are true. Like, not everyone who disagreed. But this is the point where, at one point, Tom popped into the thread. And he said, I usually just let these things go. I don't care. It's the internet. The internet's do what the internet's do. Which is true. And I usually let things go, and once in a while I do videos about them, like I did this past week. But he said, but the degree of just outright hostility and problems here, like this, I can't remember his exact words, but he basically said, like, this is garbage. Like, the way you are all engaging with, he said, again, I didn't say you all, the way this thread exists, or the way people are being, is incredibly problematic, and just, it's an embarrassment, and it's a reason to almost stay away from Lacerda fans, in a sense, that if you're going to defend things as passionately. And I'm not going to go into every single aspect, but the thing I do want to go into is a specific line, because somebody responded to him in a way that I've seen this response happen. I've been involved in this conversation myself, where somebody said, hey, if you're going to review a board game, if you're going to be discussing and criticizing the merits of a board game, we're also allowed to discuss and criticize the merits of a review. Okay? And I've seen that line before. Content creator says X, Y, and Z. People say, I hate that content creator. Content creator says, well, you're just being mean. And other people say, well, hey, you're reviewing things, you're saying you like and don't like something, why can't we say we like and don't like something? Okay? That's the conversation. And there's a huge difference between criticism and personal attacks. This is the part where I try to keep the topic of the week short. Saying, I don't like, I don't want to point at these games, these are all good games, well, I haven't played this all. Saying, I don't like game X because I think the mechanics didn't come together in a fully fleshed way that really gave me the sense of fun and enjoyment I'm looking for, and therefore it's a 4 out of 10, is the equivalent of saying, I don't like Board Game Co. I find that his reviews lack proper depth as far as going into the way the game plays, and I find that they don't give me the information I'm looking for, and so he's not for me. Those things are equivalent, and those things are both okay. They are completely and totally both okay. Saying game X isn't good, this person shouldn't even be designing board games, is the equivalent of saying that content creator is terrible and shouldn't even be reviewing board games. Both those things are personal attacks, and both of those things are not okay. Hopefully that's clear. There's a difference between criticism and personal attacks, and I believe content creators should be held to the same standard as the audience in terms of the way they approach criticism of games and the way they approach criticism of content creators. I think it is completely legitimate to not like any content creator in this space. Well, not on a personal level, but just like their content's not for you. And I think it's completely legitimate to criticize a game. I think the way we approach that and the words we use and the words we choose are super important. There were a bunch of people in that thread, the Weather Machine thread, who are being critical of the review, and that is okay. There were a bunch of people who were being toxic and attacking their ability to play games, or why or how they should even play it, and that is not okay. That's the conversation. I'm not going to go into this further, because I don't think I need to obfuscate the message with 17 paragraphs of what I mean and how I mean it. There's a difference between criticism and personal attacks. Know the difference, and try to behave on the internet in a way that you're engaging in criticism and not personal attacks. That's it. Specifically keeping it short. It's so hard for me. I want to keep talking. I do want to keep talking. I'm not going to. I'm going to stop. Anyways, moving on to the week in review. 12 by 12. No real updates this week. Again, had a very strong first month diving into a bunch of games, but I haven't really picked my next game as far as the next one I'm really strongly tackling. I've been inching along a few plays here, a few plays there, but no real progress. I've done Castle Burgundy, done Lost Winds of Arnak, done Feast of Odin, and I've partially started on a bunch of other games, but not enough to talk about it in this video as if I'm making strong progress, which means this week I'm picking the next game and going for it. Do I start with Spirit Island? Spirit Island. Let me start with Spirit Island. Okay, great. No, I don't have time. I don't have time. Ooh, boy. I don't have time. Anyways, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I want to dive into games, but the problem is that I can dive into Spirit Island, but I can maybe get 2 plays in this week. I don't think I can get like 8 plays in. I don't need to get all at once, but like we'll see. Anyways, moving on. As far as past 12 by 12, the games I played. What did I play this past week? So I played a few things. I played, again, as usual, just picking specific games. I played Aegis Combining Robots. I had a chance to play that one over at PAX East. In fact, all of these were at PAX East. But Aegis Combining Robots. It's a game that is basically you have these like teams of like 5 robots, and then as you go through the battlefield and take things down, you can slowly combine the robots to power them up and get more abilities, and then tackle your opponents and hopefully take them out. It's a fun little skirmish game with great art. My biggest problem with it is, and I like the game, I had fun, but I don't need to keep playing it. And my biggest issue with it was that I felt the robots generally felt too similar. The principle and the idea of combining robots and having tons of powers and abilities and ways they level up and combine, very appealing. But for the most part, I thought things were iterations of various, like, okay, this one has 4 range and 3 damage, that one has 2 range and 4 damage, this one rolls 3 dice and you have to get a 2+, meaning the abilities didn't feel like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to use that robot. It felt like, hey, I have a bunch of robots that just do various statistics of damage. It's kind of like the guns in Borderlands. I don't know if you're familiar with Borderlands, but Borderlands has guns, and the principle of the game is that there's millions of guns with millions of stats and tons of combinations, and occasionally you find ones that really work for you. But the vast majority just feel like iterations of other guns, and to me, the gun thing in Borderlands was a cute little gimmick that got boring way too quickly because it just wasn't actually interesting enough. I have many people in the comments below now saying the gun system in Borderlands is the best. I appreciate that. For me, it kind of was like, just give me like the Call of Duty like 10 guns. I don't need to play half my game trying to figure out which gun is better than the last. But again, I did like Aegis Combining Robots, but I don't feel the need to pick it up and play it. I think it's organic, I should say. I enjoyed it, and I'm ready to move on from it. Then we have Final Strike. Final Strike's currently on GameFound. I don't think I'm going to have coverage before the campaign ends. I need to reach out to the creator and offer him whether he wants me to cover it or not. And the reason I say offer is because I both liked Final Strike a lot, and am incredibly frustrated by it. And so I need to check with the creator. I was like, hey, I had a chance to play this. He didn't send it to me for coverage. I had a chance to play a copy of the game at PAX East, and I was like, do I reach out to the creator? Because it's going to be both positive and negative coverage at the same time, although the negative might be my own personal preference. Final Strike is a game which you are crafting different weapons as you go through the game, and it's not deck building. It's more similar to like John D. Clare's like card crafting system in the sense that every time you add a card, you remove another one. So you have 9 cards in your deck, or at least the version I played, they're still testing things, but you have 9 cards in your deck, and as you upgrade a card, you remove a card, so you always have 9 cards in your deck. It's just changing which 9 cards. And then from there, you're using these cards to basically attack these enemies, and if you attack the enemies, you deal blood damage, and you get points for that, but then whoever lands the final strike gets like the most points generally. There's a bunch of cards, a bunch of enemies, and the combination of them all produce different gameplay results every single time, and you have different sets of, bronze, silver, and gold weapons every single game. So you have different markets, but it's like deck crafting kind of, and then from there, just tackling various enemies. And I liked a lot of it. I liked the weapon system. I liked the limited 9-card hand. I liked the general sequence. I thought it was a very, very intriguing game. For me, though, I think that I have 2. But I think for me, the main critique I had, overall, I liked it. I played it, and I was like, I want to play it again. I want to play it more. It was fun. I enjoyed it. My biggest critique, though, is I hated the Final Strike mechanism, which is the name of the game. Or at least I hated the impact it had. If an enemy had, like, 30 health, and if you did damage to them, I think every 4 blood was a point. So if I did 30 damage to them, that's going to be... If I did, let's say it had 20 health. If I had 20 health and I did all the damage to them, I get 5 points of health being taken down from them. But then the person who landed the final blow will get like 7 points. So basically, landing the final blow was more important than dealing all the rest of the damage, which meant it turned almost into a bit of a key-making situation where it's like, okay, great, I'll try to not attack it, and you have to at least do the damage your weapon says, but very often it leads to a game system where the people who are most managing their exact flow of damage have better control, and someone else can mess it up and just key-make the game for the other person. And this is my general problem, the general idea. When I think of game mechanics that I don't like, Final Strike or Final Blow, the concept that the final blow gets the most gravitas, is a game mechanic I don't like. It was one of my problems with Ignite, it was one of my problems with Arcadia Quest, it was one of my problems with Wildlands. There's a bunch of games out there that have that mechanic, and I don't like that mechanic. So I really like the game and did not like the mechanic. So it's an interesting mashup of pros and cons. That's Final Strike, currently on GameFound. You can check that out. If you don't mind that mechanic, I think you'll like the game. I really like the game. Like I'm annoyed by the game because of how much I like the rest of it and how much I don't like this one aspect of it. Lastly, we have Llama Land. Llama Land from Phil Walker Harding. I've been meaning to play Llama Land for a while because it is often compared to Baron Park, but is often found to be coming up wanting compared to Baron Park. And to that end, I played Llama Land this past week, and I played it once, and I am fine. I don't need to play it again, but I did enjoy it. It's a game where you're building up in multiple levels, similar to like Number 9 or Arcadia or Acropolis. So you're trying to build out a base level that can then move up to multiple levels. And every time you build onto things, you get these resources, which you use to recruit llamas. And you're trying to be mindful of the scoring goals as well. But the llamas, as you place them down, slowly limit your possibilities of placing more tiles. So it's an interesting balance that every time you score, you're kind of hindering your ability to keep going. Kind of like, aka like Dominion, where as you gather scoring cards, your deck becomes a little less efficient. So as you gather llamas, your ability to build up onto your terrain gets a little harder. Very fun little game. Very much enjoyed it. But also, I think that I'd rather play Baron Park for polyominoes and Acropolis for leveling up, point system generators. But I did think it was very cute and very clever, and I just don't need to play it again. And that's the 3 games we're going to talk about as far as what I played, which brings us to the Week in Review. The Week in Review starting off with Saturday. This past Saturday, Devin did a preview video for Herdvana. Herdvana, which is almost very similar to Cover Your Assets if you've played that one. But much more charm, at least for myself, much more charm and appeal to me personally. We had a lot of fun with that one. That's one where, again, this is a preview. Devin's doing the preview. I'll give my opinions here if I play them. But basically, we had a chance to play that one. Devin was here, and we had someone else in my game group over, and we played through that one. It was a lot of fun. It is very much a party game. It is a party game. I will not be seeking it out. I will not be asking to play Herdvana. But anyone who ever says to me, hey, do you want to play Herdvana? I'd absolutely play it. It's just fun card play and good laughs and a good time. But again, very much a lighter experience, so take that into account. Then later on Saturday, I had a review for Ragnarock, which I actually covered doing the Kickstarter. I usually don't go back to reviews I already did. If I did a review of a prototype, I usually don't go back later because I just don't want to have, I don't want Board Game Co. to have like 2 reviews of every single game. Although what I might start doing, what I might start looking into, is having Devin or Meg do reviews of something I did a review coverage of. That way we could have at least 2 different opinions, maybe, I don't know, maybe do a 3-way review as opposed to whatever. I don't mind doing reviews if I change the format. Part of the reason I was fine doing Ragnarock is because I didn't really do a dedicated review. I did a playthrough and then like opinion at the end, and this was a full review this time. I like Ragnarock a lot. I think it's a lot of fun. I gave it a 4 out of 5. It is a fun, simple game of just moving things around. Fun, abstract game. Speaking of Santorini, which you mentioned earlier, I just enjoy the Ragnarock system and highly recommend it. Then on Sunday we had a first impressions of Elder Scrolls. I apologize for this video. I did not control the filming of it. Basically, the audio quality is terrible. I'm sorry for that. I really am. I don't know what to do with that. I almost want to refilm my first impressions of Elder Scrolls, but it is what it is. I probably should refilm it, but then whatever. It is what it is. There's a first impressions of Elder Scrolls up. You can check that out. My very short opinion of Elder Scrolls can be condensed, and I'll be talking about it more. I'm sure I'll be talking about it more this week as the campaign goes on. But the very short opinion of Elder Scrolls comes down to this. I think Elder Scrolls is an excellent game. I think it has many adjacencies to Too Many Bones while being its own beast at the same time. I think that I prefer the complexity that Too Many Bones offers, and I think Too Many Bones is a better system that I like more. And I think I'll probably play Elder Scrolls more. I think Elder Scrolls is a little simpler, a little more streamlined in a way that is not so simple to not be rewarding, but makes the game a little easier to dive into. Obviously, my opinions are based off around 2 to 3 hours of gameplay. Always take that into account because 2 to 3 hours of gameplay is not the same as 10 hours of gameplay. Using Hopmox Victorum as an example, Hopmox Victorum is a game that I loved after 2 to 3 hours of gameplay, and it has since gotten a little less so for me. Like it started off as a straight up 5 out of 5, and it's already down to a 4 out of 5. I think it's a good game, but it's not a 5 out of 5 for me, not anymore. I think it's like, it's just the grindiness aspect got too much. The more I played it, the more it's grind. And I know they're looking to address that in future content, so I'm not getting rid of it, but if not for that, if not for the fact that I know they're addressing it, I'd probably be getting rid of Hopmox. So again, difference between 2 to 3 hours, take that into account. But I think Elder Scrolls is excellent. I think it's a lot of fun. I think a lot of people will like it a lot. I'm not worried about any of that. The question is, where will it rank in Chip Theory's suite of games? For me, it's below Too Many Bones, possibly adjacent to Cloudspire, and then above Hopmox and Burn Cycle. And that's the short review of Elder Scrolls. From there, we have Monday. Monday, I did a video of being a part of the marketing machine. Basically talking about the nature of content creation, the space I have in it, and the nature of the fact that when I talk about games, when I talk about Elder Scrolls, when I talk about the games on the table I hope to be playing, inherently I am being a part of the marketing machine. The publishers are sending me games. Well, not always. Many of these games I buy. Many of these games like Rolling Heights I backed. The rest of these 2 of these are prototypes, and then one of them was a review copy. But I cover a lot of games, I buy a lot of games, I back a lot of games, but I get a lot of games sent to me, and that's part of that is me being utilized to, hey, new game, Board Game Co. will cover it if we send it to him. Hopefully, I have a stack of games I have to get to, but, and then, therefore, hopefully if he likes the game, you might buy the game. So I covered that video, going through the nature of the marketing machine, how it works, the pros and cons, the conflicts of interest. There are no perfect answers, but I think awareness is the biggest part of the conversation, and so I encourage you to watch that. If you're watching a lot of content creation, I mean, many of you are looking there, sitting there thinking, well, I mean, it's pretty evident if a content creator covers something, they are inherently being used to market too. But many of you may not think of it so much. Many of you may not really fully understand. I think the people who don't fully understand the ecosystem are the ones who are most frustrated by it when they find out what's going on. So, like, preview coverage is a good example here, which I'll probably be doing a full video on this too, by the way. But preview coverage in general, I think people who don't understand that previews are not reviews are the ones who feel most betrayed when they learn that. If you're watching, let's say, like myself, let's not talk about other content creators. If you're watching Devin cover Herdvana, and you're like, hey, that looks cool, Board Game Co. generally likes games, Devin's talking about this game, Herdvana, he's talking about it in a generally positive manner, it seems, and we don't do opinions in our previews. We do not do opinions, but we talk about the game. And just talking about the game could be like, it feels like, okay, great, I'm being shown this game. And if you find out later that that wasn't a review, which we call it a preview, and we tag that it's a paid preview, but if you find out later that it was not a review, you're the one who's most likely to feel betrayed by the channel, to feel betrayed by, like, wow, so Board Game Co. cashed a check to talk about that game and sell me on the game. Yes, that is how it works. Now, previews are not the vast majority of content. They're always going to be called preview. They'll always have the little box tag, and they will never be done by me. I shouldn't say never, because never is a long word. As of right now, I will not be doing previews on the channel. If I'm talking about a game, it's going to be an opinion of the game. So, but I think awareness is the biggest thing. Understand the ecosystem, understand what you're watching, because that way you won't feel betrayed by it when you find out that you thought you were watching one thing and were really watching another. Moving on to, that was Monday. Moving on to Tuesday. Tuesday we had a few things. We had a Passengers preview. This is actually an unpaid preview. That was Devin's choice in terms of, I was like, why not just do a review if it's unpaid? And he's like, no, I just want to do a preview. Meaning Devin may choose to do preview content in general, even when it's unpaid. And in this case, I literally just said, we always call it a preview. We always check the box. In this one, in the video itself, he said this is a preview, it's not paid. So we did cover that in the video. But again, in the video, we'll generally say, but for sure we'll check boxes and call things. But yeah, this is an unpaid preview. Devin wanted to talk about the game, but he didn't want to do a full review, so he called it a preview. And I'm fine with that. I'll let Devin do what Devin wants to do. But Passengers is a hit and roll game where you're trying to snuggle, I want to say snuggle, you're trying to snuggle souls into the afterlife. But anyways, that's Tuesday. Later on Tuesday, we had a review for Catan, which you're like, Catan, isn't that like a recent hotness or something like that? No, Catan's been out for a long time. I'm sad you didn't know that. But Catan's been out since, I want to say 2007. Is that when Catan came out? 2005 maybe? 1995? Why do I have 2007 in my head? Is Catan like 1995? I don't know when Catan is. Catan exists. Anyways, Catan, covering Catan. Again, this is a bunch of reviews I did for WSBG, the World Series of Board Gaming, and just things got busy and they've been slowly releasing. Like, I filmed that like 8 months ago at this point, or something like that. It's been a long time since that video was filmed, but a review for Catan went up, so now officially Board Game Co. has officially reviewed Catan. By the way, Catan's an excellent game. I love Catan. I have to watch the video again. I'm 90% sure I gave it a 4 to 5, and I stand by that rating. Catan is a good game that I enjoy a lot. Ultimately, I just played it. I've played Catan like over 100 times, easily. If you count online plays, which I do, I played Catan in person probably like 40, 50 times, and online probably like 200 times in my life. I use this app that was really popular back in the day. I don't even know if it exists anymore, but it gave you all these Catan scenarios. It was lots of fun. I played Catan a lot. So the fact that I no longer play, and even now, I still want it back. I still have the desire to have it. I'm definitely calling it a 4 to 5. It's good. Anyways, then we had later on Tuesday, we had Beyond the Sun. I've really been enjoying Beyond the Sun. Beyond the Sun, I didn't even realize how high it was. Beyond the Sun's in the top 100 on Board Game Geek. I didn't even realize that. But Beyond the Sun is a great game. I've really been enjoying it. I think it's just a solid game of just tech tree the board game. In Beyond the Sun, what you're doing is you're getting text and you have a degree of area control, and you're using text to get more text, and then to use those texts to get better at area control, and or to use area control to get better at your tableau board so you can get better at the text. It just works really well. I find it a lot of fun, very satisfying. I'm about to teach 2 new people the game because I want to play it with more people. I've been playing it online with strangers in Board Game Arena. Nothing wrong with strangers, well, except for Stranger Danger, but I find that I prefer playing games on Board Game Arena with people I know. So today I have it on my list to teach 2 people the game, to teach people Beyond the Sun. So that's going to happen, hopefully, probably, maybe. Then we had Wednesday. Wednesday we had a live Q&A. Early in the morning, nice and early, 9 a.m. because I had a meeting at 10 a.m. unfortunately. But we had a live Q&A. We skipped the Patreon section of the week just because it just was running late. But then past that we had We had our usual topic of the various games we want to talk about, and then we had a game show where I described games badly to Devin and Meg and had them guess which one it was. So, like, for example, let's just pretend let's do. So, like, this is a game that, like, it has, like, a bunch of, like, hex boards. It has, like, a bunch of hexes, kind of like Catan. Like, the board looks like Catan, but then, like, there's all these, like, the way the game doesn't really end at a set time. Now, your job, by the way, as I go through this, is try to figure out if you can guess the game as I'm talking. So, like, it has a board that like, kind of looks like Catan, a bunch of hexes, a bunch of little things, but, like, you're pulling them from the bag, so you create the board as you go, but then, like, you have this, like, the game doesn't really end at a fixed point. Rather, like, there's, like, these endgame triggers, and you can keep adding more endgame triggers, and then the game will end when, like, these endgame triggers are accomplished, and then you have these different resources, but you can combine resources, and so when you combine these resources, you can make other resources, and you use those resources to buy a bunch of cards, and so you can have like a whole bunch of cards in front of you, but then like you have like these like different cubes you're moving from like different pools in the board, so you're moving these cubes from different pools to other areas of the pools because you're trying to like unlock your potential or something like that, and then when you have all these cubes, you can use these cubes to go ahead and put them down on other things, like take control of various tiles on the board. And then like you also have like these things you can ride. So you can ride like a horse, but like it's not really a horse because you can level it up and you can make it these different kinds of things, and they can help you move further across the board. And by now most of you have guessed Vindication, but that's the goal. The goal was I just start to explaining a game the same way your friend who played that game one time is explaining the game, and see who gets it first. That was the game show. See if you can play along and get it before they did. Definitely was obnoxious. I said animals at one point. He's like, Root, Everdell. I'm like, okay, fine, it's Everdell. I hate you. Anyways, that was Wednesday. That was part of Wednesday. Later on Wednesday, we had 5 small box game reviews. This is going over a bunch of small box game reviews. I have a bunch of these coming up. I've been trying to clean out a bunch of these review stuff that I have. Like, I have a ton of reviews that I'm like just overdue on. And so this past week, I think I filmed like, or maybe the past like few weeks, I filmed like 4 or 5 of these roundup reviews and managed to clear like 20 games off my review schedule, which is very helpful. Usually I do it with smaller box stuff because I don't like many things that I don't think will get eyeballs. I'll combine into a video that will get more eyeballs because that helps me, it helps the publisher, and it helps you, saves you time. Then last day on Wednesday, we had a gameplay of Seven Wonders Duel Pantheon together with Devin. Me and Devin just going head to head in Seven Wonders Duel Pantheon. Well, Seven Wonders Duel with the Pantheon expansion, I should say. Should watch that, check out who won, and then we're going to have another one coming up with Agora fairly soon. Then on Thursday, we have 2021 games I've never played. Basically, going into 15 games from 2021 that I want to play. Games that are on my list that I want to table, that I want to get played, and hadn't played. And I filmed that video like 2 months ago, and since then I've played Witchstone, Llamaland, and Solomon Kane. In fact, I talked about Llamaland in this video, so I've actually managed to get 3 of those knocked off my list, which means we're down to 12 games from 2021 that I really want to play, and we'll do those at some point. I'm going to play a bunch of them. I own a bunch of them. Some of them I don't know. Some of them I don't know. Like Siege of Rundar, I don't even own. Will I play it? Who knows? We'll find out. But I do want to play those games, and will happen at some point. And then Friday is upcoming crowdfunding campaigns for April, and I don't know what those games are because I haven't filmed that yet. I'm filming that today. You'll see I'm probably going to be wearing the same shirt, but we'll film that. But that's upcoming campaigns for April. Which means today we have a few things coming up. We have reviews coming up for Dinner in Paris. It's a game that I reviewed a bit ago, but Dinner in Paris. Available on BGA as well, by the way, if you want to play it there. But it's a fun little building restaurants polygon game. It's, well, I don't know, I'm talking about the review. Watch the video, we'll talk about the review next week. And then I have a review for Imperium the Contention going up. That's a game from the same people who did Slay the Spire, Imperium the Contention. And then next week we have a few things. Next week we'll always have a few things, but I'm going to have Should You Back It for Elder Scrolls. Should You Back It with a very, and just before you get up in arms, I will be announcing straight up at the beginning of the video, I work for GameFound. I don't think I've done a Should You Back It for a GameFound campaign yet, but I will be doing it here, and I'll be doing it with all the appropriate disclaimers and with minimal marketing push. There's a balance. I'm fine being part of the marketing machine, but there's a balance. We have to be more or less responsible about different things. And I think if I work for GameFound, doing a dedicated Should You Back It is a big deal. So I'm going to talk about it because it's a big game and I want to talk about it, but I will be doing so hopefully as responsibly as possible. And if you think that I can't do so responsibly, skip the video, and that's fine. Past that, we're going to have also going to have the player count is a lie. This is a video I did together with Chris George from Wyrmwood going up this week, talking about how the player count on that box is a lie. They are lying to you. That game is not good at that player count, but not just being nitpicky, but like really where we think it's an egregious lie, and we think that that game should not. Well, we'll talk about it. Watch the video. You can see that coming up later this week. Which brings us to the games on the table. We have a few things. We have Rolling Heights, which I just want to play. I love this game. I want to dive back into it. We have Endeavor Deep Sea, which was amazing. I've only played it once. I need to play it again. I'll have review coverage coming up at some point soon, but I think this game is amazing, based on the one play, and based on playing the original Endeavor as well. So there is that like background there. We have Evergreen, which I have not played, from Horrible Guild. I want to dive into this soon. And then we have Raising Robots from Navi Games, which has the cutest, darndest art you have ever seen in a game. I am floored at the art in this game. Like we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. I don't know when. I don't know how. Maybe I'll throw it into one of my Deluxeified board game videos. I want to talk about the art in Raising Robots. It is some of the best art I've seen. We're going to get into it, but I hope to play it this week. It might be a terrible game. I have no clue. I haven't played it yet. But I do want to talk about the art at the very least. And that's it. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Thank you for sticking around. I appreciate you being here. And as always, I hope you have a good one.